Hey guys, welcome to Savor Death. My name is James. I'm super excited to get this character concept out to you guys because I was surprised when I started playing Adventures League after about a year or so playing 5th edition, and I had a couple different characters, and one of them actually stumbled upon a Headband of Intellect relatively early on, and I completely reworked my entire character design to fit around that magic item. Basically to A, abuse it as much as I could with my ability scores, but also B, be able to be more of like a support and skill monkey type of build, so that my allies could also benefit from the fact that I'm really smart. Because only someone with an intelligence of 19 would know that being that smart, you're better off helping your allies than yourself more often than not. So that's kind of like the quick breakdown of it. So we'll go ahead and jump into it right now. So no, I didn't magically just change my shirt. It is actually the next day. The recording yesterday just sounded terrible and the screen just really wasn't working out, so I'm doing it all over again, which is completely fine because I actually love doing this type of stuff anyway. So we're going to go ahead and do the build on D&D Beyond here. And honestly, there's like no easier platform to show like a step-by-step introduction of like a really interesting character build, whatever it may be, especially since it shows everything visually. I tried using like 3 or 4 different dark modes and like night themes and stuff like that with D&D Beyond because honestly, like the default D&D Beyond like character creation like screen is so bright, it's like floodlights or like a 9th level daylight spell in your face. So I tried a bunch of different ones. Unfortunately, it cuts some of the stuff in half, or it cuts some of the screen in half. But for your sake and my sake, just so we're not staring at a really, really bright screen the whole time, I ended up going with this mode, even though it looks kind of funny. But all the stuff kind of applies. So the main thing I want to address with this build is that it is illegal. So there's no UA content. I don't think Ebron existed at the time where I made this character a while back. So that didn't apply to this one for the most part. The other thing too is despite the fact that we have a 19 intelligence, I didn't want to pick any like wizard subclasses. I didn't want to pick any subclasses that had intelligence as like a secondary or like a spellcasting score. So that includes like Arcane Trickster, Arcane Archer, Eldritch Knight, things like that. I would say the main goal with this build is just to be as helpful as possible to your allies. So giving them advantage, giving them bonuses to ability check, giving them bonuses to spell saves and attack rolls, things like that. So as you'll see here in a bit, we can pretty much do everything, but at the cost of this build is pretty mad, so multiple ability score dependent. We're going with half elf because again we want to get as many skills as possible as well as many ability score increases as we can. So, and I'm going with dexterity and constitution because we really want to round out these stats, as you'll see here in a second. As for skills, we go with acrobatics and medicine. And for languages, it doesn't really matter. I guess it really depends on the campaign setting that you're doing. So we're first going 4 levels of rogue. We could have stopped at 3 to make the build kind of more online a whole level sooner. I realized that rogue gets a nice like power bump at 5 with like sneak attack die bumping up as well as uncanny dodge. But this build is going to be pretty safe. We're going to be staying at range most of the time. And the whole point of the build isn't to push a lot of damage. It's mostly to help our allies in and out of combat. So as for proficiencies, we get 4 as a rogue. Investigation, perception, sleight of hand, and stealth. I feel like perception and sleight of hand is pretty much always a must-have if you're going as a rogue, because if you're sneaking ahead, you don't want to be seen, and you want to be able to see all, for the most part. Expertise, thieves, tools, and stealth. Again, those are the 2 skills we pretty much never want to fail at. And as for the roguish archetype, we went with Mastermind. The main reason for this is because, A, we learned 2 more languages, so I think we know 5 at this point. I really like the fact that we know like a gaming set, which is a cool RP aspect. But the main reason why I picked it is because of this help action. So as a bonus action, we can lend aid to an ally, giving them the help action. And if it just happens to be a creature, we can give them the help action from up to 30 feet away, which is really, really awesome. So pretty much every single round, we're going to be able to give an ally advantage, which is really big if you have something like either another rogue or a paladin or someone that's going to use a really, really big like spell attack roll and they need it to hit. That's going to be really important. Because we went 4 levels of rogue, I took a feat, I took observant. So the whole point of this build is you're going to do a lot of sneaking ahead, you're going to be seeing a lot of things, and this is more prevalent in an Adventures League just because passive perception and passive investigation is a really big deal when it comes to like finding traps, finding clues, even noticing if someone is lying. I think there's like a passive insight too as well. So if it's not as prevalent in your campaign or if your DM doesn't use it as much, either you can convince them like, hey, this is a feat I want to take. I want it to be, hopefully relevant in the campaign. Or you can always take something like Elven Accuracy, Resilient Wisdom, something to kind of round out that wisdom for the most part once you hit level 4. So at this point, we're level 4. We did the stat array this way. We're dumping intelligence because, again, we have the Headband of Intellect. There's no reason to increase this higher and taking points away from the other scores that do matter. So with an array like this at level 4, we're going to have a 16 in Dex, 14 in Con, 19 Intelligence because the Headband, 16 Wisdom, 14 Charisma. You could play around with this. I made the Wisdom a bit higher, mainly because A, we're going to do some multi-classing, and B, there's a lot of really important skill checks that involve Wisdom. So I ended up going with that. Background, 9 times out of 10, I pretty much always do a custom background because I love being able to pick my own skills, my own tools, things like that. So I just did a custom background. I did Insight and Religion. Tool proficiencies, I love the fact that at this point we're already proficient with 1 tool and we have, like a gaming set and 2 tools. I think once everything is said and done, we're going to be proficient in like 4 or 5 tools, which is pretty nice. And I think we were doing Salt Marsh or something like that with this character. So I ended up picking like Sea Vehicles and Navigators tools. And I also picked the Sage background, mainly because I love the fact that I pretty much could never fail, because even if I do fail either like an intelligence or a history or like a religion roll, I can always kind of lean on the fact that I'm a researcher. Like, even though I don't know what it is off the top of my head, I either know somewhere or someone that does know the information, so it's only a matter of time before I can find out. I really like that fact, and I think some DMs like it, that it's a good way to kind of keep progressing the story forward. So sometimes if your DM shows you a plot hook or a clue or something like that that's not maybe immediately relevant, you can always lean on that background and your skills to be able to kind of help it come out to fruition. So Headband of Intellect, we already started off low level. That's the whole reason for the build. We got it at low level or at level 1, or if your DM granted it to you at level 1, which is really nice. And so you've kind of built this character around it. So just to give you a brief snapshot of what it looks like at level 4. So this is what the scores look like. This is what the skills look like as well. So at this point, we're going to be 9 times out of 10 just attacking with our short bow and then doing the help action as a bonus action, which is really nice. Our passive intelligence or investigation or perception is already really high. It's above 20 or at 20. So we're pretty much going to be seeing a lot of things. And now at this point, we just want to expand upon the utility that we're going to give to ourselves and our allies. And we're going to take a look at that here. Okay, so now after we've taken 4 levels of Rogue, now we're going to take 1 level of Knowledge Cleric. This is for about 2 or 3 different reasons. One is that we do get access to medium armor, which is pretty nice. For whatever reason your campaign doesn't allow for a lot of sneaking around, or if your party isn't really taking advantage of the fact that you can sneak up ahead, and you just want a huge bump to your AC and be kind of more combat effective, that's always an option. We are taking Knowledge Cleric mainly because, one, we get to learn all these cool skills and we get to learn 2 more languages. So at this point, I think we know 7 languages, which is pretty cool. Something I forgot to mention earlier is that the Observant feat allows us to read lips. So now that we know 7 different languages, it's going to be really easy for us to kind of figure out what people are saying from far away, maybe pick up on some rumors that are happening in town, things like that. And at least for these two skills are pretty important just because they do double your proficiency. I love taking Arcana and History because those are the 2 checks I seem to be the most important and the most prevalent. You could swap out Arcana for, say, something like Nature or Religion, just really depending on the campaign setting. So if you're in the jungle, maybe Nature, or if you are playing a campaign that's heavily reliant on demons and gods and things like that, so maybe you want to pick up Religion instead. For spells, let's go ahead and jump down to the spells known. We know 3 cantrips and 4 prepared spells. So at least for cantrips, another huge reason why we're picking Cleric is for guidance. It's insanely good on ourselves, but it's also really good for our allies. And at least for these other 2 cantrips, it really doesn't matter. It's really personal preference. I like the idea of Thaumaturgy, being able to manipulate your voice, speak out loud, things like that. And then I guess we'll also pick up Sacred Flame. Our spell save DC is respectable because we have a 16 Wisdom, but this is mainly because in case we come across an undead or something that absolutely needs radiant damage to die, it's always nice to have it occasionally. And at least for first level spells, for me, I think the 3 must-haves are Bless, Healing Word, and Shield of Faith. The reason for this is that Bless is a really, really good concentration spell, and it's honestly good all the way up until the campaign ends, whenever that happens. Healing Word and Shield of Faith are both bonus action spells, so it's going to make our build extremely action economy friendly, and our allies are going to be very thankful for it. I mainly picked up Shield of Faith just in case you do have another cleric in the party that is casting Bless, and that's kind of like their thing. You can always toss up a Shield of Faith so that way you're not wasting your own Bless spell. And at least for this other spell that you can pick, it really doesn't matter. You have a free one. I really do like the fact that we have Identify. That's kind of a cool way to uncover magic items, although I noticed it's not something that happens that often. So at this point, we're just going to pick up like Detect Magic. I like the fact that we have 2 ritual spells that we can do without expending spell slots, and we can help out our allies that way with some utility. So now at this point, after picking all of that, our character is looking something like this. So already we're going to have expertise in basically 4 different skills. So we have Thieves' Tools, Stealth, History, Arcana. Our passive intelligence and wisdom has bumped up because our proficiency has. And so now, with our bonus action, as you can see here when I click on it, now we can do 2-weapon fighting, or we can do Cunning Action, Master of Tactics, Healing Word, or Shield of Faith, all as a bonus action. So these are all things that are either going to help ourselves or help our allies, and I think they're going to be obviously really thankful for that. And now we're going to even expand upon this even more. So I think this build, you're starting to realize that it could really help our allies with a lot of really good low-level spell slots, but also with skill checks. Because something I've noticed is I think by raw, you don't have to be proficient in a skill to be able to help someone else. So even a barbarian could help technically a wizard with an arcana check. But I think most DMs are going to say, hey, you have to be proficient in the skill to be able to help them out. Eventually, we will be pretty much proficient in almost every single skill. So now anytime our allies want to do something, we can help them out. And I love that fact. And especially since now that technically we can use the help action as a bonus action, we can also cast guidance as a normal action on them if your DM is really stingy when it comes to rules. So it's like, yeah, I'm going to help them, but also cast guidance on them. So now they have advantage and guidance on top of that. So at that point, there's almost no way that they could fail unless they roll really, really low, obviously. So, okay, so after everything is said and done, now we're going to go Lore Bard for 3 levels. And so we're mainly picking that A for Jack of all trades, Bardic Inspiration, Spellcasting, expertise, proficiencies, cutting words. Like these are all things that we want with this build. So at least for our proficiencies, I ended up picking the Viol. I think that's how it's pronounced. I think I role-played it with my character because I use a short bow. I kind of use the gun of violin looking instrument also as a short bow at the same time. I thought that was kind of like a interesting detail. And then we also ended up picking up survival as well as another skill. Going down here to Bard colleges, we went with College of Lore, obviously because we want the expertise and bonus proficiency. So I ended up picking Investigation and Performance because, or I didn't mean to pick Performance, I meant to pick Perception. This is mainly because at this point my character was doing a lot of sneaking ahead, so I wanted to be able to double my proficiency to look at my surroundings, but more importantly, when I did find something, I wanted to be able to investigate it the best of my abilities. And again, that made it only easier with giving myself guidance, and it pretty much made it so I pretty much never failed the skill check. For bonus proficiencies, did Performance, Persuasion, and Nature. At this point, we're pretty much done with picking our proficiencies when it comes to skills. I pretty much role-played the fact that my character didn't want to lie or intimidate people, and he hated animals. He knew a lot about nature, but he hated like handling animals, doing anything like that, didn't want to deceive people, didn't want to intimidate anyone. So he was a good-natured person and knew a lot of stuff, but he understood people, but he just like did not understand animals. Like he did not want to handle them by any means. And at least for spellcasting, you really honestly have a ton of options. We only took Bard mainly for the extra skills and Jack of all trades, which is really, really nice. But, we didn't take Bard for the cantrips. Honestly, a lot of these are pretty underwhelming considering for our build. I did pick Message because I was sneaking ahead a lot, and then I also ended up picking, I believe it was Major or Minor Illusion, just so I can kind of trick people or kind of give different illusions when I was in trouble or kind of, up to no good for the most part. I did ended up picking Invisibility because I was doing a lot of sneaking ahead, or if I was sneaking ahead and I wanted someone to come with me, I could give them Invisibility. But I think the main reason that we wanted to push Bard this far as well is also because of enhance ability. Now we can give ourselves advantage whenever we want on our skill check, and we can't unfortunately concentrate on this as well as guidance because they're both concentration spells, but anytime that we know we're going to make a series of skill checks, or it's really, really important that we accomplish, we have one shot at doing the skill check, we want to make sure we do it right, enhance ability is an option. And at least for first level spells, it's really up to you. I liked picking more non-concentration spells because we're going to be doing Bless most of the time, or Shield of Faith, things like that. So I ended up picking things like, I believe like Featherfall, Long Strider. It really doesn't matter. Just things that are pretty much not going to be non-concentration for the most part. So pretty much these options are totally up to you. You can even pick Dissonant Whispers to kind of help out your allies and kind of peel bad guys off of your allies as well and provoke some attacks of opportunity. So these spells don't really matter that much. So at this point, the build is pretty much online, I would say. Looking at the passive perception, all that stuff is super high. We have proficiency in pretty much every single skill other than 4 of them, which is Animal Handling, Athletics, Deception, and Intimidation. Again, you can pick whatever skills you want. But I think the main aspect and the main appeal to this build, at least for me, is that, again, we're not trying to push a ton of damage. We probably could have made slightly better use of the Headband of Intellect by picking Arcane Archer or some other, intelligence-based builds like that. But I think the main aspect of the Headband of Intellect is that we're able to dump our intelligence, put most of those points into other mental skills, allowing us to be proficient in more of those skills and be better at it, and be able to help our allies more, as you can see here. So for the most part, with our bonus action alone, with this build, and it's online by level 8. Technically, it could have been level 7, but I really wanted to get that ASI from Rogue as soon as possible. So already, we can do Cunning Action, we can do Healing Word, Shield of Faith, Bardic Inspiration, and Master of Tactics, all as a bonus action. So depending on the scenario, you're really, really flexible with your options. And as a reaction, because we pick Lore Bard, we can do Cutting Words or Featherfall, depending on the spells that you pick as well. And for an action, we're pretty much always going to be picking our short bow, if not any other spells that you might have picked before, like Bless, or if you might have picked like Tasha's Hideous Laughter, things like that. I also love the fact that we know, I believe, 7 or 8 languages on there. So anytime that we're taking the Observant feat, we can read people's lips. You could also take Comprehend languages too from Bard as well. So now if you run into a rare case that you don't know someone's language, you can just read their lips. And because we also did the Master of Tactics Rogue, anytime someone is making an ability check, we can give them the help action and give them guidance on the same turn, technically. It's really up to your DM how they want to rule that. But I would argue at this point, you can pretty much take the build wherever you want. If you really want to push Bard up to 5 so you can get 3rd level spell slots and get that short rest recovery of inspiration die, you can do that. If you want to push Rogue to 6 first so you can get expertise and 2 more skills, you get uncanny dodge, as well as some extra sneak attack die, you can do that. So I'm going to go ahead and take the build to level 11 just so you can see what that looks like and how much better the build has gotten. So at this point, I would pretty much say our build is in final form. I think this is pretty much where I left off with my character. So I ended up pushing Rogue to 6, Bard to 5, and of course just leaving Cleric at 1. I don't think it's necessary to take any more levels of Cleric. And this is mainly because with Bard 5, we can get 3rd level spell slots, so it allows us to do a lot of upcasting since we're still technically a level 6 caster, and we get short rest recovery of our Bardic Inspiration that are D8s now. So we can do Cutting Words more often, we can inspire our allies, and we actually get some nice short rest benefits there. We also see that the Jack of all trades is really kicking in with our higher initiative. We literally have 0 negatives now when it comes to certain skill checks. And now that we're proficient in tons of languages, tons of tools, we can help our allies whenever we want. We have guidance, we have enhance ability, we have tons of bonus action items that we could take advantage of. We have a decent amount of reaction options like Cutting Words, Uncanny Dodge, Featherfall. Eventually, when we push it a bit higher, we have evasion, things like that. So the whole point of this build is to help our allies as much as possible. When you are doing something, if you are doing a certain tool check or a skill check, ask for help. Don't be that person that just, hey, I want to do everything. I think the way I role played my character was that I would actually let someone else go first, and he was so curious about even something like an investigation. I mean, he has a +12. He's not going to fail most of the time, but he would actually let someone else do it first, or he would actually help them instead, even though they only had maybe a +5. But with the help action plus the guidance, it made it that much easier for them to pass the check, and you're kind of more of there as an assistant and not to kind of do everything. I really hope you guys enjoy this type of content because this is the kind of stuff I love doing all the time. I'm starting to learn really quickly with this video making stuff that it can take hours and hours and hours, especially since I want all the editing to be perfect. I don't want to talk too fast or scratch my nose or stumble over my words. So I'm trying to get better about that and releasing more content sooner and faster. So I really hope you guys enjoy this. I want to make more magic item builds like this. So it's like a character built around a single magic item that really helps leverage that power to help others or themselves as well. So if you guys have any other comments, feedback, whatever it may be, please don't throw it down in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And I wish you guys the best of luck on your next roll. And remember, you have advantage.